Hello and welcome, everyone. Super excited about our conversation today. Several of us here, and we're all going to take turns introducing ourselves. So, Pan, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Pandora Ray. People call me Pan. I've been with Coach 123 for over a year. I've got a lot of coaching background and education, and I'm so excited to be here because it's really important to me that we consider salient, timely topics, sometimes even sensitive ones. And so I'm really glad to have this guest today.
Awesome. I'm Cathy Liska. I'm an MCC coach, founder of the Center for Coaching Certification, and president at Coach 123. And very excited to have the star of our show here today. And I'm going to invite you to introduce yourself. So, Natasha, please jump in.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Natasha Hillsman, and I am the founder and CEO of Wellington Hillsman Consulting, LLC. I've been a coach for, quite a while, and so excited to be here to have this conversation.
Great. We are too. So much so. I wanted to start, if you mind or don't mind, Natasha, and ask you what was so important that you wanted to join this conversation today.
Oh my good Pandora, I was so excited when Cathy reached out. She knows me, so this is definitely right up my alley. So one of the main reasons why I wanted to join this conversation to talk about diversity and coaching is because Cathy knows I was a little bit of a reluctant person in this process. I think so many of us don't always feel that we can be our true authentic selves, and I was looking forward to this conversation to really encourage, folks, either whether if you're thinking about being a coach, if you're currently coaching, if you're a client, you're thinking about having a coach, a coaching experience, that, really we're all diverse in our own way, and that we should not let anyone tell us what that looks like. Even on this call, all three look very different, right? So, but it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. And I was so concerned that in a coaching training situation that I was not going to be able to be myself, because so many of us have to wear a mask, several masks, right? We believe that we have to do that to cope and go through life. And I really wanted to have a really open conversation about diversity in coaching as a coach and also as a client. So I told Kat, this is my jam. This is right up my alley. I'm so excited about this conversation today.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. All right, so let's get some basics to set the foundation for the conversation. Yeah. What does DEIJ mean?
Yeah, so and if you rearrange that, it's like Jedi, right? I think we're into Star Wars. You're into that. It's justice, right? Diversity, inclusion. I think that for me, when I think about diversity, definitely it's just being able to be your true authentic self, whatever that self is, without judgment, and being comfortable with that. It's interesting because I do see that the Jedi phrase, and I think a lot of times people forget about the justice part of Jedi. And that's a whole thing under itself. Like if you're very much interested in systemic, discrimination and different things like that, that justice piece does play a part into in diversity. But, for me and how I'm, relating with my clients, it really is bringing your whole self, the piece that we can see and the piece that we cannot see, to that coaching experience.
That's really interesting that you should say that, because there's a misnomer, I think, and that is that when we talk about DEI or Jedi, we're supposed to do something. And what you just said was, this is about me showing up, me being my authentic self. And that is sort of a juxtaposition of what I think a lot of people think about it.
Yeah, I mean, so really it is about us. And, and a lot of folks, we've seen this, this phrase or these words as it relates to a workplace. So a lot of folks are really, maybe used to that but really that's talking about showing up as an employee as well. So you can take that same meeting and as a client or a coach, bringing that to that coaching relationship. So yes, it's bringing your true authentic self. If you know what that is, Pandora, because everybody's still trying to figure it out, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
all right. I mean, that's a whole so part of being a coach is trying to help people understand what that is for them.
Well,
Yeah.
and to me, the big question behind that is also, are people comfortable bringing their true selves? Do they feel like it's safe, or is it a risk?
Yeah.
Figure that out.
Yeah. Well, I think I was part of a conversation recently, and we were talking about inclusivity, right? Being inclusive. And there's some of my clients that don't feel comfortable. It's an inclusive environment, but they actually don't want to be included because the environment's not, maybe they consider that environment to be a toxic, inclusive environment. So, that's why I think you can't just take the one word by itself and go run with that. I think you have to look at everything, together. But we do know from, as coaches, working with clients, helping them understand what the person really wants, that's very important. And the only way you know what you want is when you feel like you can kind of show up as yourself to be that, right?
So what do you think the level of understanding is in terms of Jedi?
Yeah, I think it just depends on what your experience is. I remember working for a company years ago, more than 20 years ago, and it was a really a new concept for that particular industry that I was in. And I'm talking about in a corporate, work environment. I think a lot of us may have heard that first. Maybe the first time we really ever heard about Jedi was in a work environment. We really didn't hear about that, as an individual or in our family or things like that. And so I think it's kind of whatever your starting place, is. I'm hopeful that, going forward, that we talk more about this in our schools. It's more talked about in health, as far as your healthcare and different things, because it does branch out to different parts of our life, right? Not just a workplace situation.
So talk more about that. How does this whole big subject impact people, whether or not they're even aware of it?
Yeah. I don't believe in magic words, Cathy. Some people may call it different things, depends on what your culture and your background is. I don't think if you don't say the word diversity, that you're not talking about diversity. I think it just depends on what it is for that person. I mean, talking to my clients, it doesn't matter what their demographic is. They all are dealing with things that revolve around Jedi, whether they know it to be that or not. And everyone doesn't use those words, right? But that's really what's happening. Yeah.
I think it affects individuals. I also think in organizations, there's this whole big struggle about the culture and that kind of thing. And it affects their bottom line.
Yes.
And what's funny is sometimes they don't realize it affects their bottom line.
That's true.
I'm curious for an exploration of that.
Yeah.
And I know I'm being very US centric and pragmatic. My thought behind that is, okay, if we really want people to start paying attention to this and doing something, let's call their attention at the impact on them. Right.
Yeah. I think there's probably some, personally, I think there's probably some industries that do a little bit better with that than others. There's maybe a longer history. I mean, one of the first diversity trainings I ever took was a diversity training that was offered by the military. And I'm not in the military. I'm a military kid, but the military, they were doing diversity training for a very long time. So there might be some people might want to correct me, but from my experience, for myself, it was really a military training talking about diversity. That was the first training I ever took. Wow. Somebody from the military talked about that. And so if you think about it in the military, it's very important, right? I mean, you have, people that come from all different backgrounds. I mean, I grew up on a military base, and it was all kind of different nationalities, and, family makeups and things like that. We all lived in one place. And so, somebody had to figure out how to make that happen and how to make that happen effectively. I think fast forward to now, there's probably very few organizations that probably don't have some type of diversity focus. I know we were in the conversation recently, we were talking about organizations really putting a lot of focus on diversity in their executive team, especially after George Floyd was murdered a few years ago. There was a lot of movement in places that we had not really, talked about that.
Mhm.
And I also think the organizations always know that, hey, it's good to have diverse talent, right? So we heard that. But a lot of times they didn't really associate that with the whole makeup of the person. It was really the performance,
Mhm.
So, hopefully that, organizations are getting a lot better, with that. Because as we coach our clients, they can't separate the two, right? Are they being tapped into because they are a diverse person because of their talent, or is it because of their whole person, like who they bring to the organization? So what I do try to do with my clients, and I'm not sure about, Cathy, you and Pandora, but I try to, encourage them to definitely in a working situation, figure out what it is that what they want. Also do it an inventory and acknowledgement of who they are as a person, and those things should align. And when those things are not aligning, that's when you have a lot of times you have conflict, and they're not feeling really good about their situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a successful organization is an organization that has aligned employees who can bring their true selves to the workplace, and that is diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Share with us your ideas about how a coach can embody a Jedi mindset, if you will.
Yeah. I think the work is the self-work. I remember going through the coaching training. Boy, that was tough. And it wasn't just tough. It wasn't just tough because Cathy was a tough teacher. She wasn't a tough teacher. Because I hated homework, guys. I really hated the homework. She's got my feedback about that. But really, it was it was the self-work. I mean, for the first time, I had to really focus on what it is that I wanted and kind of do an inventory of that. And a lot of times we don't really stop and do that for ourselves. And it was hard. I mean, there was a couple of times I was like, I can't do this. It's too much work. I don't want to talk about me for 3 hours a week. It was a lot. So I think it really starts as a coach is really being in tune to yourself, first, and because how do you recognize that with your clients if, you haven't figured that out for yourself? And we're all on a journey. We never get there. It's never going to be done. So I'm not saying that you have to be in some kind of utopia place before you could be a coach. Because who wants to be coached by someone that's perfect?
Right.
Nobody. And nobody want that. You don't want to be coached by somebody that's perfect. You don't want to be preached to by somebody who's never done anything wrong, right? Or counseled by anybody who's never had a problem. Really, it's what makes us who we are. But for me, it's the continuing self-work for myself so that I can show up for my clients. Because as a coach, we know we have no idea what they're going to say. Because what do we ask? What would you like to talk about? And it could be anything, right? So we just have to be, in a stable ground for ourselves so that we can actually support and help our clients.
So I love that you brought up that self-work. It's such a big part for all of us. And as you said, ongoing. So imagine for a moment, we've got somebody who's new to this concept of, oh, I got to do my self-work. And they don't really know what to do or where to go or how to get there.
Yeah.
What's your advice for someone on moving into doing that self-work?
Yeah. It's what we ask our clients. What do you want? Right? What do you actually want? Not what does your organization want for you, what your mama want, really, or your kids, or whatever situation you're in. But what do I fill in the blank? Put your name in there. What do I want? And so you have to sit with that for a while, and ask yourself those questions. And then for me, I did that, and then I tried to back into what I said that I wanted, right? And I'm an action person. So, I know if there's people looking out here like, well, I'm just not going to sit around asking myself what I want. I want to do something. I'm like a busy person. I have lists like, let's get it. But also it's really taking the time to really figure out what I want, not a response or impulse to some outside factor outside of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was a lot of prayer and meditation on that. And then really asking the universe and asking God, like, hey, could you please send some people my way to help me with what I'm just asking what I want. And when you do that, people will show up, things will show up because you're ready and you're open, and you'll recognize it for what it is. And you may not know everything that's going to happen, but you'll recognize, hey, I saw this website. I think I need to click on this button. That's what happened to Cathy. I'm like, I think I'll click on this button. Like, I'm going to call her. She answered the phone. Like, so, it's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah.
What about
I
you
would
guys?
imagine-
Like, what?
Well, and I want to throw in, you're talking about what do you want? I'm also hearing behind that, who do you want to be?
Who do you want to be? Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
I think there's a certain amount of grace too that a coach must give themselves to be
Mhm.
uncomfortable. This just
Right.
feels icky. I don't feel like confident, and
Yes.
to say that and say, well, okay,
Mhm.
that's all right.
Mhm.
Now what do I do? Now what do
Mhm.
I do about that? And
Mhm.
those experiences are free. To me, if I'm a good coach, that I
Right.
notice that uncomfortability, that undiscussable, and say it out loud.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. And being able to sit with that, Pandora, and not try to, push, the person to get to a certain, like, we're not supposed to be pushing. We can challenge, right? But we're not supposed to be pushing people for growth, so we have to be comfortable with them being uncomfortable in their situation while they're figuring it out, because it's their journey. It's not our journey. We're along for the ride, but it's not our journey, and I think if you have not done a lot of that work for yourself, doesn't mean you can't be a really great coach, because, we can do two things at one time, like multiple things at a time. But I think, an effective coach for your client is when you are willing and open to do that work for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's hard. So it's hard. Hopefully somebody can maybe people might disagree with that, but for me, it was really hard for me. It's really hard.
And okay, so here's the pragmatic side of me. I've got that.
Yes.
What do I do? So here's some things I'm thinking about. Like,
Okay.
there's the assessments you can take online for bias.
Absolutely. Yes.
Implicit bias, unconscious bias, that kind of
Yes.
thing. So exploring that, finding some assessments.
Mhm.
Okay, what are my biases? Because
Mhm.
the bottom line is we've all got them.
Yes, we do.
Oh yeah.
So finding that out and then
Mhm.
sitting with that and that reflection of, oh, okay.
Mhm.
And
Right.
back to who do I want to be? If this is
Right.
telling me where it's at,
Mhm.
where do I want to be in
Right.
bias or that kind of thing?
Mhm.
And then the idea of how do I shift to that?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the learning journey and the education that's involved,
Right.
and I've got to become more aware. And
Right.
there's classes and programs and that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we shift into this idea of communicating openness
Right.
in the images we use, the words we use, the way we talk, how we are with different people.
Mhm.
So that's my pragmatic side.
Yes.
Give me
Yeah.
your reaction to that.
That's right. I was trying to hold that side back for myself. Look at the lips. Read 10 books and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, that I think for a person that's trying to figure it out, it's definitely, there's tools out there. I'm a big reader. I like listen to audiobooks. Like if I'm in the car, I'm listening to something. And people, once you put that out there, people will start again. If you set an intention that, hey, listen, I really am trying to get to what I really want or what I want to be, you put that intention out there, things will just drop in your lap. People will send you podcasts and, hey, I was, articles, and it's like everybody's working with you toward what you're trying to achieve. So yeah, I'm a big reader of reading. I think that's really good. You know, you can definitely talk with folks, but I would just caution talking to the wrong people about your situation. You can't talk to everybody about
Everything.
everything, right? You can't talk to everybody about everything. So you might want to just, meditate on if this is the right person to talk to. But yeah, there's quite a few things that you can do. And everybody may have someone, there's a person they may admire, or there's certain qualities or something that someone is doing that they resonate with. You can research that person and what is it about that person? Because you might have a connection that you're not aware of. You have no idea what that person's journey has been until you kind of delved into that a little bit. And there might be a connection there for a reason. That's what I've done. There's some people that I really were interested in, and I start reading a little bit about their history, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, well that makes sense to me, and they may also have some good ideas about how they handled their journey as well. So.
What other are there, besides assessments and reading, are there formal continuing education opportunities out there? So
Pam's just setting us up.
Cathy, do you want to take that question?
I appreciate the setup. Actually, there's a diversity and equity in coaching continuing ed program that we do, and I'll share with you. I want to say 4 or 5 years into the development of that program, and just am super passionate about it. So
yeah.
We have that. Of course, there's so many more. I think you can get on YouTube. I think you can go to ICF's website. They do things. I love the depth of the one we do, where the conversations go. It really combines both the exploration with the pragmatic. Okay, there is actually something I can do, and talking about what that is.
Yeah.
So
that is so awesome. And it could be a situation you could see some type of program out there, and they may offer, CEUs or whatever to continue. You can research or ask them, right, Cathy? Can't you? Like, there's certain topics that you might be interested in that could work toward your certification or recertification.
Yeah. And for example, the diversity program gives CEUs as well as the continuing coach education.
Right.
So there's that. And let's carry that forward. So how does that learning for us as coaches then in turn support clients?
Yeah. So personally, I think that I want to be coached by a coach that's still learning. I prefer to be coached by a coach that feels like they need to continue to learn. That's kind of where I am. And I believe my clients could benefit from me continuing to learn. And especially when you're talking about diversity, and like, you're never going to be done. It's not going to happen. Like, things are, if you're a coach, think about your last 2 sessions you've had with 2 different clients. There's a lot going on. Do you think you have it all figured out? I know I don't feel like I have it all figured out. So we all need some help, and, I think it being curious and interested in what's going on around you, also, I know Cathy has taught us, it's not for us. We don't have to, you're coaching an engineer. You don't have to be an engineer, but there might be some things that person is dealing with. If you have no idea what they're talking about, maybe you're curious and interested just a little bit about, okay, what is this word that he keeps using, so that you can be, help with the context for a little bit better as a coach for that person. Also, I think we have to continue to work on this mentality that diversity looks like a certain thing. Like it's a visual, and it can be that, but it's more than that, right? It's a lot more than that. And if you're not educated on different aspects of diversity, you can always look into that. There's plenty of tools out there. If you work for an organization, I'm sure your organization has resources and tools and things like that. It's not, to be a good coach is not good enough just to be like, well, I got my clients, I'm good. No, you never know who's going to reach out, who's going to walk in your door next. Right. And so, being open and wanting to learn, that's going to help you to be better as a coach, as a person, because we're all multiple things. I'm sure we all have families and we're taking care of, most of us are taking care of somebody, right? Whether it's a human or a animal, right, Pandora? We're taking care of somebody. And so, you know, it's going to benefit someone in our life besides our clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think about two things as you were talking.
Yeah.
We don't know what the client's going to show up with
Right.
and what that's going to be. And then the other thing I think about is we talk about how our knowledge or experience or education or learning helps inform questions.
Yeah.
So not here to take you a certain direction or guide or anything else. I'm not the leader in this. I am here to hear things you're saying and not saying and ask questions.
Right.
It's
Yeah. And it's difficult to ask the appropriate question for your client if you've not broadened your understanding about the situation, right? So it's going to be really hard, maybe harder or more challenging for you as a coach. And maybe you're going to feel like you're working too hard. So, you know, one thing we learned, like we should not be working super, super hard as a coach. And if we're doing that because we're putting ourselves first, there's some kind of barrier there, right? And so being educating your craft and, you know, kind of keeping up with what's happening around you, but also being in tune to the client, you know, and doing a really good job listening as well. And, you know, and Cathy, this might be something that people might be helpful for coaches. I'm going to ask you a question. If you're a coach and you're in a coaching session and you have a client that uses a particular phrase, and that phrase could be a phrase around culture, or it could be they're trying to describe an experience, you know, what would your advice be to get a little bit more information about that without like getting all in their business? You know, we're not supposed to like, okay, tell me what happened. You know, we're not supposed to do that. Right. But how do you suggest that we delve a little bit deeper, but still keep it at the level that, you know, we need to as a coach?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually love that question. And interestingly enough, it is one of our markers. So when I say a marker, we have our competencies as coaches, and then we have the PCC markers that are the specific behaviors that demonstrate the competencies. And marker 6.2, which is for competency 6 of listens actively, literally says, coach inquires about or explores the words the client uses. So it's our job to ask, okay, when you said this, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
And then when they express themselves, I think there's room for more questions. It's okay, what impression does that phrase create with other people? How do others perceive that? What's a different possibility of that perception? And what's the impact of it?
That's a really good, because I don't think any client, because it could be a cultural situation that the client is trying to explain to you. That's just as an example. And you may not actually know what they're talking about, because you know your dimension of diversity, you've never experienced that before. But we try not to bring that person where they're reliving the past, right? We're trying to help them move forward. But I think, you know, as a coach, it's okay to ask that question. No one's expecting for you as a coach to be a expert in all cultures and all languages and everything. We're not
possible.
Right. And, you know, and I will say, you know, that could be a deterrent for coaches for taking certain clients. But if we just recognize that that's not the expectation, right? That, you know, we can explain every culture on earth, because that would be kind of fun if you could. And
can I have several lifetimes?
That's right. I was like, and a little bit scary, like, how old are you?
Right.
So, but it's okay. Like, you don't have to not take a client because you're concerned that you're not going to be able to relate to that client's experience and how they show up physically or culturally in their space. There's still some things that you can offer. You can help them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a happy story about coaching somebody who you worked with to find their true self, their authentic self, and how that happened?
Cathy, you want me to go?
That's you,
Oh, you should like, no. You know what? I'm going to tell you the ending of the story first, and then I'll work backwards. Actually, I have a client right now. She ultimately decided to quit her job. That was the ending. That's part of the ending. And some people may think that that's not very happy and a very happy story. But when I started working with this client, she was spending a lot of time trying to fit into, she was a circle and her organization's square. So she was trying her best to be a square. She spent a lot of her energy trying to be a square. And, as a coach, you know how it is. Cathy knows, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to tell her so bad. Like, you're a circle, you're not a square. Like, you can't, you're like, oh, be quiet. Like, but she finally got it because she could not understand why she was so unhappy. She was misaligned. And she did the assessment and she did the, all the disc and the this and the 360s and all that. And everything was saying, you're a circle and this organization is a square, but she thought that she can work her way to feeling included. And, in the past, she had really good performance, but the organization had changed. That performance wasn't the same exact, it wasn't perceived the same. Okay, things were changed. And so I consider that to be happy because I know she's going to go and she's going to find an organization that is a circle, or she's going to find an organization that's a square, and they're okay with her being a circle.
Yeah.
In 1/4 mile, turn right onto.
So I'm so excited. I think that's a happy story because through our coaching experience, she really saw what other people saw, and it's okay. It was okay. Yeah. And so she's doing good. I mean, she's looking forward to her next opportunity. She has some things lined up. And, now she's working on how to not be a circle and wherever she goes next, because it's okay.
Yeah.
I love that story.
Yeah. I'm happy for her. Very happy for her.
Love that. Thank you for sharing it. I'm sorry I just sort of surprised you with the question.
It's okay.
It's a great example. And I think one that plays out so commonly.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do well in my position.
Yes.
Maybe, okay, are you on the right bus?
That's right. There you go.
Yeah.
That's right. Are you on the right bus?
Yeah.
Yeah, that bus is going in a completely different direction. And it's the struggle. You have clients, it's hard for them to get to that point to say, I need to do something different, especially for your clients that are super achievers out there. They're on that path and they're gonna ride that thing to they've been doing that for so long. And again, once they focus on what it is that they want, they realize they don't want that any longer, and that's okay too. You can change your mind if you want. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then ultimately, I'm imagining, okay, so now they find the place where it's a round organization or a square that is happy with round people being there,
it's round with people.
Whatever it is, however you want to describe that analogy. I'm thinking remember when we're kids and you have the
I know that little thing when you put the little things in there, like, and it didn't fit, and you're like, oh,
And it's like when it does work, you think about, okay, so the little kid's pounding it in.
Yeah.
Maybe that square is big enough that the round peg just goes
in. It's that's right.
Fits, or they find the right round hole for it.
Right.
And they're so excited. Look, I did it.
Yes, I know. And they're like, I know. Yeah. But you spend so much time trying to put it in a hole that's not big enough. It's not big enough, but it's just that. So a lot of times we feel like it's our effort that gets us where we need. And effort is good, but also, what do you really want? you really want to be in that bucket, you might want to try a different hole. Right? You know, and so some people don't even think about it, Cathy. They go for a very long time and they don't even think, like, I could turn that thing around and I could actually probably put it in a bigger space and then spend my energy and time on achieving my goals there. They don't even think about it. And that's one of the best things about being a coach. You know, I'm like I think we have like different categories of coach. I'm like a cheerleader coach. Okay. So, you know, like, give me a Cassie, you know, like, I'm right behind you, right in your ear, right behind you in your ear. And when my clients make that decision for themselves, oh, it's the best feeling in the world. And you know, but definitely understanding their dimension of diversity and all their whole self helps with that. Definitely helps with that.
Well, and what's coming up for me is, for example, the values activity that we have where you're really exploring their values and they're defining them. And then I think saying, okay, so these are your values and what are the values of the organization?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where do they align or where do they conflict? And what do you want to do about that?
Right.
Which supports them. Okay, ultimately, where do you want to be? What's really important to you about where you are?
Right. Yeah. And, you know, and taking that time to figure it out, like, it doesn't mean that you have to do something about it at that time. You're really going through the process of evaluating that for yourself, for the client to evaluate that for themselves. And again, it's a question that people very rarely, they don't ask themselves those questions. You know, what kind of organization do I work for? It's not a critique on your organization. You're just doing an evaluation of it, you know, because you're actually evaluating what it is that you want as well. It's okay, you know, and then if it's not aligned, a lot of times that explains a lot of the difficulty, definitely for the clients. You know, everybody's not in the workplace. I know people coach, you know, students and people in different situations, but a lot of my clients are, you know, working leaders and other people in organizations, and they just don't understand why things are so hard. And it's because a lot of times they're not aligned with what they say they want with the organization.
Yeah. And you remind me that we spend a lot of time looking for answers, and perhaps what we should be looking for are the questions.
Yes.
Well, and
lots of questions.
And I'm just thinking, okay, and if we're not aligned, then it's okay. Do I have a level of influence here? And am I willing to invest that energy here in changing the alignment or adjusting the alignment of the organization? Or is it something where, okay, I don't have the influence or the energy or whatever it is. I want to look for something where it is aligned.
Right. Yeah. And it's energy, not control. I mean, it's influence, not control. So, you know, so it's really, you know, we have to talk to our clients about that, you know, because as we show up as our individual selves in our diversity, other people show up that way too. Right. And so we want to feel comfortable to be all our true authentic selves. Then we have to also not be a barrier for other people to be that way as well. And that may mean you're not going to be able to control other people, right? So the influence and controls is definitely different. I like the word influence. I like that word.
Where do I have influence? Well, and then
where do I have influence? Yeah, not where do I have control?
Because if I have influence, it takes energy to exercise that.
Sure does.
And how much energy can I put into this?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's
right.
That's huge.
That's a whole topic by itself, Cathy. You can put that in the podcast.
So it is bringing me to this question for you. If you think about the people are here and what's important to them and what you want them to take away from our conversation. Let's start moving in that direction. What is important about what we're talking about?
You know, I think if you're listening to this and you're not a coach, you're just a human being in this world, I think you can start at that level that, you know, really ask yourself what diversity is for you. And guess what? That answer is going to be, it's good. It's the right answer for you. There's really no wrong answer here. You know, notice that we didn't go in like do definitions, like, you know, it really is, what is that for you.
Mm.
If you are a client and you are being coached by someone right now, I feel like for the takeaway is, hey, it's okay to let your coach see who you are.
Mhm.
Don't try to hold it back,
Mm.
because they're there to help you. And so I understand that there are times where you feel like you have to wear a mask in other places for survival. I get that. I think we all can get that. But that coach is there to support you. And the more you're willing to let that coach see your whole self, the more they can support you in your goals.
Yeah.
If
I
you
love
are
that.
a coach, recognize that it may take a little time, like might take more than a few sessions, for you to get through that level. And you're never going to get there, because we're very complex people.
Mhm.
But don't give up on a client that you've made feel like still like, holding back. They are trying.
Yeah.
And the more you're in line and in tune with yourself as a coach, the more that's going to resonate. That energy is going to, I am such a proponent in energy. Like, your energy you bring to a session, for the most part, you are creating a ground for that growth with that client. And so, but you got to be in tune for yourself too. You can't show up in the session and you're out of alignment with yourself for that hour, because that's going to reflect in your coaching that client. But give some grace to some of the clients that they're dealing with a lot of different things. They're talking about one topic, but they got like 15 different things happening at the same time, and they can't always explain it all to you. But they'll get there. And so just continue to be patient with your clients, and also be open to clients that maybe you felt, because of how you show up in this world, that you would think they're never interested. They don't want a coach that looks like you or talks like you or dresses like you. We got to get past that outside facade sometime. It's the inner self, the connection, and that you may have something to give that person. So just don't write them off. Or they call you and you're like, I don't really know. Go through your process, but try not to let that first instinct of what you consider the outside diversity deter you from, maybe taking on a client who's completely different than you are.
Yeah.
So I think there's lessons for all of us, Cathy, and that's one of the reasons why I was so excited about this. It's a journey, personal journey. I've been the human, I've been the client, I've been the coach, and those are all the lessons that I've learned through this process.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And to me, every time as coach, you have the privilege of working with somebody that's so completely different.
Yes.
It goes back to, we're continually on that learning journey, and we get the privilege of learning while we're supporting them.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pan, what do you want to add?
I just have appreciated the conversation. Just the flow of it, and the contribution that you've made, Natasha, has been phenomenal for me personally.
Yeah.
So thank you is what I want to say.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great. It's definitely a learning situation for me. I was meditating this morning, and I really was hoping the conversation was what it is. And that is just giving people a little something. I mean, if you only take one little piece of this out of this, conversation, hey, that works for me. It's the little tidbits that make all the difference for us. And, I'm just really glad that I'm on this journey, and I know that has a purpose for me. And I know all the other coaches out there, we're not doing it because we want to be famous. Probably not. I don't know. Cathy, what do you think? I think we're doing it because we feel like we have something that we can give to other people.
Yeah. And we love it when we see it work for someone else.
We do. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Natasha, thank you so much. Thank you for the time and the energy. you put into this conversation. This is awesome. It's amazing. Super excited and very much interested in what everybody else out there listening and maybe listening to it later after the fact, whatever it is. Let's keep this conversation going, keep those comments going, and continue to build on it. So
Thank you for having me.
thank you.